Hi, my name is Dan Kainsat, owner of DK Custom Guitars. Welcome to my shop. Let me show you around. A lot of guitar makers will put a whole guitar together and in the end they'll tune it from the outside. And to me that's like a lot of guesswork. You don't really know what the final thickness of the top and the back plates are. And you are tuning it and listening to the back and the top move, but it's still kind of guesswork and you're doing everything from the outside. The way that I was taught was to get things perfect before you glue them together, and then once they're together you can refine the sound and tune them still, but you're not guessing, you kind of know where everything is. This is a very cool tool that was originally a Stradivarius design tool that I learned from Michael Darton, my teacher. And again, it's a very simple tool. There's a bolt with a wing nut that's soldered to it, and you can turn it and set it to a certain depth. As you turn it down, it lowers and increases the distance between the steel pin, which is an old file that I sharpened down, and it has rubber bands so that you put your material in here. I don't know if you can see from that viewpoint, but basically you set your depth to wherever you want it. Say you want to take this down to 1.5 millimeters or 1 millimeter, you set the clearance to that dimension, and you put it through and you just go all the way through. So I do this with my tops, and you then have a point. This little pin leaves an impression in the wood, and you have a visual mark of that depth. So it's a depth gauge, but it's a very simple tool. So it takes the guesswork out of doing a lot of things and gives you a very distinct point of reference. So I use a lot of hand tools when I do this work. I feel that using hand tools is such a very necessary element in making a really fine instrument, because it allows a connection between you and the material that you're working with, and it's just a physical connection that you can feel, you can hear, and it just makes your work that much cleaner. I first start, what I do is start with the biggest tools and work down to the smallest tools. So for instance, in most of these tools I've put together and I've made myself, because it's like problem solving. You need something to work right, and a lot of times you can either buy something and change it, or make something from scratch. So starting from the biggest tool, I start off with something like a gouge, a big gouge, and I'm not going to do anything on this now, but for initial carving, this takes out a lot of wood very, very quickly. And you go from there to stuff like hand planes, which is essentially a more controlled gouge. It's got a blade in it, and all sorts of sizes, from big planes down to really small planes, which are for smaller instruments and smaller tasks. And then you go to something that's even finer, and like a scraper. And what a scraper is a very thin piece of metal, and with a very fine razor sharp edge all the way around. And I've made a whole set of these, different shapes and different sizes, some that are straight and rectangular, and they're all very specific and have a specific task. And you'll find that when you reach a certain area and you don't have a scraper that fits, you'll have to grind one to with a certain shape that allows you to do what you want to do. So basically it's a razor. And I have a guitar top that's in a cradle right now, and I have it pivoted on my bench so that, hold on one second, so that I can move it around in a circle and work all the way around and lock it where I need it to be locked. And the scraper essentially, let me just rotate this around. So as you can see, there's all these rough marks that are left from my plane. And what I'm basically doing is lowering the arch, and you do so, kind of gradually, all kind of uniformly. So it starts high and then levels down. So using scrapers is a really fast way of removing all these ridges. you can see that it removes wood very, very quickly, and you have this connection of feeling the arch and feeling everything together, and by spinning it around and going in certain directions, you really have this physical connection to the way that everything's forming a shape. I use light a lot. I have these really bright lights on right now. If I turn them off, it's really helpful because using light as a reference is huge, and using shadows. So I'll be moving the lights around, reading the surfaces, taking a straight edge and lying it over and casting a shadow to see the arches at certain intervals.